MLS laid an absolute dud in CONCACAF Champions Cup. We look at the latest men's national team roster ahead of the Nations League. And what is the weirdest soccer stadium in the world? That and more here on Wednesday's Morning Kickaround. Hello, and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kickaround, where we talk about the world's absolute favorite game from the world's absolute favorite country. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we do this show. It's called Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Thank you so much for joining us here midweek for another episode of Morning Kickaround. How you feeling, Mr. Davis?
I'm good. Missed you on Monday. Rob, you had some real life things to take care of, and I was here all by myself, but I thought it was okay. Glad to have you back. Big stuff to get into with the Nations League roster and weird stadium designs and whatever else might come up.
I appreciate the big lift on Monday, but I know you're a true pro and you'd be able to tackle that yourself. Unfortunately, real and important things come up as much as I realized.
What's more important than soccer, Robert?
There really isn't, and I every time I have to do something that's not soccer, I question the existence of everything. Why do we do these things? Why do we spend our days things? Not what we want to be doing. But anyway, I'm here. We're here together. That's what's important. I noticed subscriber numbers continue to grow, Jason. It's very exciting. And you viewer, if you're here, thank you. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button, do so now. Be the very next to join the MK Ultras. We're getting a nice little community going. The following is increasing. Be the next. Tell your friend to be the next after you. Morning Kickaround on YouTube, continuing to grow, working our way towards 5,000 and our next subscriber goal. You can follow along on social media. We have accounts that go like this: Kickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And you can write us an email. We've gotten a couple nice ones. Please continue to do so if you're interested in sponsorship, partnerships, idea suggestions for segments, or even just a little note beyond just a 1 or 2 sentence comment in the YouTube chats. So morningkickaround@gmail.com is your place to do that. Good morning, Jason K.
I would like to ask people, I mean, we've said, hey, please share that the show exists and maybe share a video with a soccer fan that you know. Definitely let them know that we're live, 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. I know that's super early. We've already had some people over on the channel say, guys, why don't you do this live? And I said, we do. And they said, 6:30 on the West Coast. That's super early. I appreciate anybody who is watching us live no matter where you are. But yeah, let people know, maybe share the link. I'm on Blue Sky at Davis Jason, and we do have a Morning Kickaround account, as Robert just said. So retweet or repost or reskeet or whatever we're calling that.
Reskeet just sounds a little dirty, but totally in context with where we are at in the world. The time zone's having a big impact on viewership. 9:30, you might be settling into your office if you're on the East Coast. West Coast, this is like open up your phone or your app as soon as you wake up with the bleary eyes. And then if you're overseas, it's completely different altogether. Last note before we get into it, Ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. And we've already received some generous donations and contributions. Thank you so much to anyone who has already done that. And if you'd like to help make this show sustainable and help us enable us to grow, Ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. You can donate $5 a one time. You can make a monthly contribution, big or small. Anything will help the program. All right, you ready to get to it?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, let's get on into it. Wednesday's long balls here on Morning Kickaround coming up. Welcome in. This is Long Balls here on Wednesday, March 12th. Long Balls, our headlines here on Morning Kickaround. My name's Robert. He's Jason. As we wake up this morning, CONCACAF Champions Cup, Major League Soccer teams didn't do so well. Three of the five are out. And Miami's still to play on Thursday night. And the LAFC progressed, but they beat a Major League Soccer team. So Columbus, Seattle, and Cincinnati all out of 2025's edition of the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yeah, Miami playing Thursday, and then we have the games tonight that I'll get to in a second. But here we go. This is, once again, MLS tanking in the CONCACAF Champions League / Cup, as it's now called. Seattle went down to Cruz Azul after the 0-0 up in Seattle, where they could not take advantage of home field, and they get beat 4-1. Lots of those goals coming late. Cincinnati beaten in Monterrey by Tigres 3-1 on the night. No surprise. I mean, I'm not surprised. Are you surprised, Rob? This is what happens to Major League Soccer. This is what happens to Major League Soccer in this competition. MLS
it's up and down. There's been a couple minute moments of success, but for the most part, this is the trend.
But this is chalk. This is not a surprise that when Seattle plays 0-0 against Cruz Azul at home and when Cincinnati goes 1-1 with Tigres at TQL Stadium, that they're set up for failure when they go to Mexico. When they get to Mexico, MLS teams fall flat on their face. So, again, we're here, and I'll throw this up. This is from Paul Tenorio over on Blue Sky. FC Cincinnati spent more than $30 million this offseason. The problem, they could only spend it on a few spots. 3-1 Tigres, another MLS team out of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. More evidence piled up that how MLS teams spend needs to change. Been obvious for a while. Will MLS do something? Now, here's what I'll say about Paul's statement there. He's not wrong that MLS cannot compete with the Mexican clubs as the budget rules are currently constructed. Now, as they are currently constructed, MLS teams, and it's not that they don't have the top-end talent in a couple of spots. It's that they can't spend in significant ways across their roster. Now, Cincinnati spent $30 million. Kevin Denke, they went out and got some big-name players. Would they have spent that in a different way if MLS didn't limit your unlimited spending to 6 spots, which obviously the DPs and the U22 players, right?
If you're only allowed to splurge on a couple places, there's going to be some soft spots there.
So is Major League Soccer better off? Because all of this kind of stems out of the David Beckham arrival, right? We got the DP rule, which then, as things have evolved, has broadened out to more than 1 or 3 spots. It's now more, but you're limited. You have to spend it on younger players and all those. Again, we've talked about, I think we talked this with Armin Kafai about how teams are spending on their U22 players and whether you should be going for established professionals or the talented young player. What, Dallas just signed a player out of Brazil who has like 1 first team appearance or something,
Yeah.
and they spent like a couple $1 million on that player. Like, is that ideal? This is what it's not that MLS is saying you can't spend. It's they are restricting how you spend. Now, the obvious follow-up question to what Paul Tenorio is presenting, if you decided to open things up, is could MLS maintain parity under a scenario where teams are no longer restricted to spending on just a couple of spots? Because that's the other part of this. MLS has been like, okay, fine. We'll start opening up the purse strings a little bit. We'll create new rules and new budget buckets and new gams and hams and all those things. And now cash for trades. And we'll do all this stuff. But we still don't want to make it so 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 really ambitious teams go zooming past everybody else in terms of quality, because we don't think that that's the best way to sell our league. And when we talk about the GM survey later in the show, stay tuned for that segment, please. And if you're watching this video with the long balls, go find our GM survey segment. You'll see how some of the chief soccer officers in MLS are a little frustrated by this, Robert. I mean, I could pick apart the actual results. I could say, oh, look, it's 4-1, it's 3-1. Is the quality gap massive? I don't think it's massive, but it's big enough that on a regular basis, this is what is happening to MLS teams when they go into this competition. These are the games tonight. Monterrey hosting Vancouver, 1-1 from the first leg of BC Place. Vancouver looks pretty good in the early going MLS. They're going to get beaten. It's going to be 3-1.
Vancouver.
Yeah, it'll be 3-0, 3-1, something like that. Club America and Chivas, obviously a very interesting game if you're a Mexican soccer fan. If you're a North American soccer fan, pay attention to that one. Obviously no MLS teams involved, though, for the purposes of our conversation. And then the Galaxy against Herediano out of Costa Rica. They lost 1-0 down in Costa Rica. Obviously, the Galaxy look like garbage, so I don't know that they're expected to do much I mean, maybe they can win this and progress, but they haven't looked good enough that I'm super confident. And as we mentioned, then you have Inter Miami, and they're playing a Jamaican side, so you'll have LAFC through. It's possible you have the Galaxy through, and you could have You'll likely have Inter Miami through. Are any of those teams set up to win this thing? Because I don't know that it's even good if they would, because then it sends the message that MLS doesn't have to move forward on trying to make, if you want to win this competition, I've said it for years, you have to stop holding teams back if you want to win. Don't say you want to win this competition and then have rules in place that limit teams in their spending so they cannot go toe-to-toe with the Mexican sides, because the Mexican sides will always win, particularly in Mexico.
I think that if Miami goes through and progresses, I think that they almost have an asterisk on them. I don't think it necessarily rubber stamps like validity, like you're saying, to MLS and the structure they've set up. Because I think there's already kind of an outside of the norm quality to Inter Miami. Not every team can be like, oh, yep, they have a Messi on their side, so they can, they're built for success in this competition. So I think that Inter Miami, if they win and progress, they're probably likely to be the ones set up and prepared to take on this challenge. But I also think that they are I don't know if the word is an outlander or outside the margins sort of team compared to the other Major League Soccer sides. And then going back to your point, we talked about last week after the first leg, we kind of predicted this, like it did go to chalk, to your point, that, the MLS teams kept it tight at home, but you go on the road and it's a different story altogether. And it's set up for that. It
would be ridiculous not to acknowledge what Leo Cruz is saying. Does it matter that MLS is just starting their season while Liga MX is in midseason form? Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah.
But that's all the more reason.
That's always been the case.
Now, look, we're going to get to the calendar too, right? So Jason saying another reason to move to the European calendar in response to Leo. And we will talk about this again in the MLS GM survey, which is going to come up later in the show. That's a topic that was asked about by the Athletic guys. If you're not going to do that, if the calendar switches, we have to let things play out and see how that changes this competition from an MLS standpoint. But if you're not going to do that, if you're not willing to change your calendar to line up with Mexico so that you are not at a disadvantage in the early part of your season, your teams are just getting underway, just getting warmed up, don't even know who your best 11 is, and you're going up against Tigres and Monterrey and Club America. If you're not going to change your calendar, give your teams more tools to find the depth and the players necessary to win this thing. Or don't even, I guess you have to compete. You're in CONCACAF. It's not like you're going to beg out for this competition and pull out or something. But it does feel weird when MLS gives lip service to winning this competition and then doesn't allow its teams the tools necessary to do so.
We shall see what happens with that. So what do you think is the best possible outcome here then? Are you stuck in the position where you're rooting against the Major League Soccer teams to succeed?
No, of course not. So it looks like LAFC is going to get Miami, which means one MLS team is going to be knocked out in the next round of the competition. Again, I can't see Vancouver getting past Monterrey, but imagine that they did. They'll get, looks like Pumas, more than likely, who is up against Alajuelense in this round of the competition. Seattle's out. Cincinnati is out. The Galaxy, if they figure out a way to reverse the scoreline against Arellano, will get Tigres. Do you have LA Galaxy doing anything against Tigres? I don't. No. So it looks like we will have one MLS team in the semifinal. And that will be either LAFC or Miami, who comes out of that part of the bracket, and they will likely go up against either Monterrey or Pumas, and that's going to be an incredibly difficult challenge. The path is just very hard.
Okay, so coin flip at this point between LAFC and Miami. Who do you see being able to beat these big hitters from Mexico?
Man, that's a good question. I think LAFC is probably more equipped because of the way they play, because they are not. I think Miami is questionable defensively, is a nice way of saying it. They might score goals against MLS teams and be able to win in the league. I don't think they'd be able to do it against a Monterrey. So I would say LAFC is the best possible representative for MLS in the later stages of this competition.
Moving along, long ball number 2 here for Wednesday. Mauricio Pochettino dropped his Nations League roster for the U.S. men this week. Just under a year till the World Cup, or just over a year rather, to the World Cup 2026. So kind of with every roster release, a little bit more importance. Not a whole lot of games to go for the American national team before the biggest competition on the planet. So with the Nations League, the semifinal is coming at us on March 20th. So, just was it next Thursday, the U.S. will take on Panama. And so you see it on the screen here, the 23-man roster. As you look at this, as this came across your screen, Jason, what kind of jumps off the page to you?
Well, okay, let's go through this position group by position group. I have no issues with the goalkeepers. It could be Ethan Horvath instead of Zach Steffen. I don't know that there's I don't know why the preference for Steffen over Horvath.
Cheaper flight.
Maybe that's what it is. Less adjustment, less issues with travel. Maybe, I don't know. And we expect Turner to start. I think Schulte's probably the number 2, and then Steffen is 3. You're never going to see your third goalkeeper unless an absolute disaster happens. Not worried about it. Defenders. What stands out for me is that looks like Pochettino is putting some stock in Austin Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers playing together at Celtic and maybe in the Champions League. Maybe that's been impressive to him. I'm a little surprised by that. I don't know that a lot of people had Cameron Carter-Vickers on their roster. Trusty's a mild surprise. The guys, look, there's no Miles Robinson in this team. I mean, that I think a lot of people will be, okay, it's fine. He's an MLS guy. We don't really want him anyway, and maybe we'll come to the MLS guys and the question of MLS players, but I think it's a mild surprise. Fossey, no surprise there. Mark McKenzie has played very well in France recently. I think that's a deserved call-up, although that's not always the first concern when you talk about a national team trying to win meaningful games. Tim Ream's still in the team. He is a center back, or is he a left back? With Charlotte, he's a left back. With the national team, is he a center back? Will he start? Chris Richards, absolutely fine there. Of course, Jedi Robinson's in the team, and Joe Scally is your right back. Serginho Dest back playing again for PSV Eindhoven, but not healthy enough in time to make the roster. It wasn't on that 60-man preliminary roster, so he's not here. Midfielders, Adams, no problem. Cardoso, no problem. McKennie, no problem. Giovanni Reyna, little bit of a question, obviously, but I think it's impossible to leave him out because of the talent. I think that it's really just hard to make that argument. Tanner Tessman is the one that stands out to me because I do think, I guess maybe it was down to Aiden Morris or Tanner Tessman, and it seems as though Pochettino prefers Tessman. I really, really, really like Aiden Morris, and I think he's played very well. He did have an injury not that long ago that maybe slowed down some of his momentum. But again, I'm not going to get too in the weeds about worrying whether he picked Tessman or Morris. Diego Luna is the name everybody's focused on here. Clearly, and we'll get to it with the forwards too, clearly, Mauricio Pochettino took a lot out of the January camp. Mm-hmm. We were all here poo-pooing the January camp, talking about how it doesn't mean a lot, and who cares, and it's camp cupcake. Or
that's the cycle. That's the cycle, though. We lambast it every single time, but there every now and again something comes from it, and I think this is it.
Yeah, I mean, so as Nate is saying, so happy about the Luna call. Big balls, which of course is what Pochettino called him or said about him when he broke his nose and continued playing in January. This is a sign of what Poch values. He knows he needs some creative players. Diego Luna is not a winger, right? He's not a wide player. And I'm not sure, I guess he does kind of fit into the point of a triangle midfield in this setup, although Weston McKennie is obviously going to be a two-way player. And you're asking probably Tyler Adams, who's been very, very good for Bournemouth and is back completely healthy, to be your shield and to do that job by himself. So, I mean, if you look at this, you're kind of thinking about depth. It's Adams with Cardoso behind him. It's probably Reyna with Luna behind him, and it's McKennie with Tessman behind him. Right? Those are the kind of depth chart positions there. You got 6 players for 3 spots, 2 at every spot in that midfield. Forwards, Patrick Ajameng. Again, January camp stud. Gets an opportunity to play meaningful matches potentially. This is also about Pepe being hurt. This is also about Balogun being hurt. This is also about nobody else kind of emerging. Josh Sargent absolutely has to be in this team based on his club form. Right? Is he needs to score for the national team so he can put to rest all that nonsense about how he hasn't scored since, 2019? Like, it's true. It's a fact. I don't know if it's reflective necessarily of his talent. So he needs to step up if he gets this opportunity. Musa listed as a forward. Now, again, we just went through the midfielders. 6 players for 3 spots. You can see the starter and the piece behind him, the player that backs them up. Yunus Musa is a midfielder for me, Robert. So unless he's being flared out wide to play as a winger because we're short on wingers, and maybe you have to have him in the team, he is an established national teamer, because I think the name that's not here that people are surprised by is Alex Zendejas, a Club America, who's been one of the best players on the attacking end of the field in Mexico for a while now. So where is Alex Zendejas? Well, it looks like maybe Zendejas is sacrificed because Musa needs to be in the team. And again, Musa listed as a forward is a surprise. Pulisic, of course. Josh Sargent, we talked about. Tim Weah, of course. And then Brian White. And Nate is saying, who is Brian White?
He is the American leading scorer in MLS the last year or two, right?
He is. He is the top American goal scorer in Major League Soccer. He plays his soccer way up there in British Columbia.
And that's why you don't know.
Vancouver Whitecaps just signed a new contract. He had his moment in the January camp as well. Mm-hmm. And again, this is more evidence that Pochettino really values what those players, White, Ajimang, and Luna, did in the January camp. Right? This is you might say, well, what does that matter? And again, those are MLS players. And we have a specific and sizable group of U.S. men's national team fans who refuse to see any value in any MLS player, period, full stop.
Yeah, and you never want to work in absolutes. I mean, especially in a people business, sports, soccer, people business, and you don't want to take a blanket approach to everything. I mean, just because, someone might be talented, but they work for an out-of-favor company doesn't make that person not talented,
well,
right?
Okay, so, and again, so much of this is circumstance.
Yeah.
Like, if Ricardo Pepi and Valorant Balogun are healthy and playing, is Ajimang in this team and is White in this team?
Probably not.
Probably not. In fact, maybe there'd be a question about whether Sargent or Pepi or Sargent or Balogun. I mean, I would take Pepi because of his goal-scoring prowess, but he's not playing consistent enough minutes where you're just 100%, yep, he's locked in, let's go. He would be in my team. He would be in most people's team, but there still would be a little bit of a question. Right? There aren't that many guys, unfortunately, in this part of the field who are in mid-season form. Ajimang's not in mid-season form. Brian White's not in mid-season form. Who are scoring goals and are starters. Right? Ajimang is a starter in the early part of a season, hasn't scored a goal yet. Yunus Musa, again, not really a forward, doesn't score a lot of goals. Not a goal scorer, and not even a winger at AC Milan. Christian Pulisic, of course. Josh Sargent banging in goals. In the second division in England,
yep.
I think it matters. I think it's great, but it's the second division of England. You might ding him for that. We know about Timothy Weah and Brian White, again, just like Ajimang. Early going in the season, not really in form. It is thin. It is just thin. And I will like it to be better, but I think that Pochettino is recognizing I'd rather have guys I know a little bit about and I've seen and I know what they can do if I put them in certain circumstances and I have a profile on them, then maybe grab somebody like Damian Downs, for example, who I think just had surgery on his hand. So that's probably not even a player who would have been called up. He might have been called up if completely healthy, but it's not even a question because he wasn't available. He's the dual national who plays at Köln in Germany in the second division. There are a couple of guys out there like that. But
yeah, what about the Union Berlin dual national kid that was talking about also? I was curious if he was going to make this list. So kind of like in a little bit of a retrospective here. So looking at this list on screen of the players and the positions you just outlined, so are really only half surprises are Zendejas not included in the forwards,
sure.
Aiden Morris not being included in the mids.
I wouldn't call that a surprise.
Maybe or a debatable decision.
Okay, sure.
And then in the defenders, this is the center back is really like the thin aspect. It is cool that there is two, a club center back pairing. Does the center back pairing from club translate, or does Mackenzie slip in there and supersede that kind of club chemistry? Where would you rate? The three here between Mackenzie, CCV, and Richards and Trusty,
that's four. But...
yeah, I saw. Yeah, that is four. So does the pair that played together in club supersede?
No, not to start. No, I think Cameron Carter-Vickers and Austin Trusty are backups, and that more than likely, I still think it's probably Tim Ream and Chris Richards, and but then again, Tim Ream is also a player who can play at left back. There's lots of center backs here. Again, how you rank them is a question, but there's lots of center backs here.
Are they all? Would you call them all like roughly at the same level?
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. I mean, I think Richards is ahead of CCV, Austin Trusty, and McKenzie. I think Richards is ahead of all of them. I mean, Tim Ream is a question because of his age and because he's now not playing center back anymore in Major League Soccer. So I think you could bring that up as an issue. Whether or not you need to play a left-footed center back alongside Richards and, how that plays out. You have one out-and-out left back in Jedi Robinson, and you have Joe Scally and Marlon Fossey as your other fullbacks, right? So Tim Ream looks like maybe he's a depth piece at the left back position behind Jedi Robinson if you need him. Maybe he's not a starter. Maybe he stays on the bench because you might need him in reserve at left back should something happen to Jedi Robinson, which would open the door for somebody like McKenzie or Cameron Carter-Vickers, or I suppose Trusty to slip in there. I mean, I'm anxiously waiting to see what Pochettino does with this lineup against Panama next Thursday.
Yeah, next Thursday in California, SoFi Stadium, which I wasn't quite sure was wide enough for the soccer. That's a good point, Nate, because we were talking about Musa at forward and whatnot. There are some utility players in here.
Yeah.
So Musa can play multiple positions.
It's
forward,
possible.
mid. Weah can do the same, and then Reyna could probably move to a forward type, or maybe a wide forward position, and then Musa comes back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think based on history and what we've seen already, I think it's unlikely that Tim Weah plays at fullback unless there's a disaster and a crisis.
There isn't enough goal scorers to push him back, I think.
There are not enough wingers. There aren't enough wingers in this team. You have three center forwards in Ajimang, Sargent, and White, and then you have Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, out-and-out wingers who can play on opposite sides from one another and often do, and then Musa, who is not a winger but is being listed as a forward, I think because of that thing. Now, again, would you rather have Reyna flared out there, or would you have Luna flared out there instead of those players? I think that is a question. It's imperfect. It's definitely imperfect. And, again, I think it's really difficult to predict what Pochettino's lineup is going to look like because of those issues.
Some comments coming in here. Looks like we already asked Nate who Brian White is. Some Thomas Dupree kind of saying some bad words about national team fans.
You don't have to acknowledge Thomas and that particular comment, Rob. We can move forward.
And I guess comments. Who would you like to see in this roster selection that wasn't included here? And then who would you like to see in your starting 11? Put that in the comments here. But
yeah, who's the player who's missing? I definitely think. And let's see. I saw someone.
Zach says surprised Dest isn't included. Okay, you went to Nate. Would have taken Zendejas over who? Are you talking about? Brian White here.
Maybe it could have been Brian White. Again, you have two center forwards in Ajimang and Sargent. Why bring in a third one in White? Don't know exactly. As for what Zach said, and we did mention this in passing, too soon for Sergiño Dest. Back on the field at
Great to see him back. Great to see him back because this team is way more dynamic with Dest in the lineup.
Yeah, too soon in the sense that he was not on the 60-man preliminary roster, which you needed to be on to be included in this group. And I think that's just because they didn't know about his status. So good for Sergiño Dest, but ultimately still too soon.
We shall see United States men's national team taking on Panama in the semifinal of the Nations League next Thursday. So looking forward to that. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. Morning Kickaround on YouTube.com. We blasted past our 1,000 subscriber goal, and we are working towards 5,000. So if you're watching this, kudos to you on your magnificent taste in morning soccer entertainment. But, click the subscribe button and then tell some of your people to do the same. You can follow along social media at mkickaround, at X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And then write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Or if you're able to, thankful to all who have already done so, ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. You can donate a few dollars, large or small amounts. You can enter in whatever amount you'd like. One-time donation or a regularly occurring donation can be made there. And thank you to all who have done so. Thanks to those who will do so in the future. We kind of got our legs under us a little bit. And now we're trying to make this thing sustainable and able to grow it. We are, just getting going, and we really want this to be one of the centers of the American soccer conversation. And it really takes you joining in and participating and supporting to make that happen. We're going to take a quick break, but then we're going to dive into what MLS executives are saying about their own league. We'll be right back here on Morning Kickaround. This is Hot Topic here on Morning Kickaround for Wednesday, March 12th. I'm Robert. He's Jason. By popular demand, we've been asked to dig into the Athletics kind of annual general manager survey. This is in the past. It's kind of become an every year thing. Paul Tenorio and the staff there at the Athletic, survey anonymously MLS executives, try to get some peek behind the curtain, see what people who are working in the higher chairs of the league are saying about the league that they work in. There's a bit to chew on. They kind of staggered this. Part one was kind of some superlatives, expectations, kind of some surface level stuff. But part two that came out more recently kind of dug into the
juicier,
little juicier. Some kind of discontent with the direction, some talk of grand changes in the league came out. Where do you want to start with this GM survey here, Jason?
Well, how about this? This is an ever-present topic around Major League Soccer right now. Are we getting too much Messi? Are we being force-fed Lionel Messi since he arrived in Miami? And whether or not this is bad or good for Major League Soccer?
So just from our show perspective, I know it seems like at least the very participating section of our audience seems to be over the Messi talk. And I've definitely seen that. I don't know if that's just the vocal minority of folks who like to respond on social media and on YouTube comments, or if that's a broader opinion.
Well, I mean, I think there is a strong contrarian streak among MLS fans, and I think American soccer fans who were already bought in to the league didn't need Lionel Messi to show up to tell them that it's good and they should pay attention. And so when you see, especially if you're locally focused, and so many MLS fans care about their team. They don't care about the national picture. They don't care about the rest of the league. They care about Sporting Kansas City, Columbus, LAFC, Seattle, whoever it is that's their team. I mean, this is a problem for MLS, and we can get to that later in this survey. But when you have people who care about their team and all they see from Major League Soccer as an organization is Messi, 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 when you go to MLS soccer.com and you see a giant picture of Lionel Messi and ask you to sign up for the Lionel Messi newsletter and you go, hey, can I get more Lionel Messi in your inbox? You're just like, that's enough. Enough Lionel Messi. As great as he is, right, we have other players. My team has players that should be celebrated, and there are stories that we should be telling about those things. So I kind of get it. Now, here's the quote. Some people say that Messi has gotten rammed down their throats. I just think, what else are they supposed to do? They're trying to capitalize on the biggest ever icon that's playing in the league. This is where I fall on this. Like, whoever this is, and this is anonymous, of course, that's where I'm at. It's like, yes, it gets to be a lot. Yes, it gets to be kind of annoying. It's ridiculous. And I feel for my colleagues in soccer media who work over there at Major League Soccer who are being asked,
their editors
Messi,
are probably
push Messi. It's not their fault, right? They're working for a living and they're being told, hey, this is what we're doing. And so again, you have the biggest name on the planet. He is probably who's more famous in the world than Lionel Messi, Robert? The Pope?
There's a small handful, and within the athletic world, not many, if anyone.
Yeah, and this is okay. This is obviously a knock-on effect. That's a problem, as Nate says. When clubs feel like they have to refund tickets because a specific player didn't take the field, there's an issue.
Yep.
Right. That's the other side of this marketing campaign. If you push Messi and Messi and Messi and Messi, and people buy inflated tickets because Messi's coming, and then he doesn't come. Okay. One CSO said that MLS saturates its fan with Messi content. Another said that giving Inter Miami certain financial concessions is a byproduct of bringing a player of his stature to a league. And so this is the idea that Miami is getting away with some things or getting some extra benefit, not just from Lionel Messi's presence in terms of marketing, but because they don't want Miami to stink while he is here. So anyway,
well,
I would say
this also speaks to the point of kind of how I feel about Major League Soccer in general, because most things in the world, I believe in balance. And then kind of with the way that the structures are, there it's like an imbalance. You know what I mean? Like the crown of Messi arriving kind of tips the balance over too much. So there's people trying to push down on the other side, whether it be through PR or otherwise. You got to tip the scale to try to find some sort of a balance. And when someone kind of hears the league here, and then an alien drops in and that's so far above in status and in skill and accomplishment, it kind of maybe makes for some uncomfortable and unbalanced and uneven things, like returning tickets to visiting stadiums.
So this is good from Angus. What I call the Messi obsession syndrome is not a good outcome for the league. They need to broaden other players in namescape. Okay, I mean, obviously that's telling other stories, and I absolutely agree with that. But you are swimming upstream when you do that, Angus. And as somebody who works in radio and tries to talk MLS and tries to, not only is it anything beyond Messi is a tough sell, anything that's not Messi because of the Premier League's influence in American soccer is a tough sell. So you're kind of double hit by these problems of, first of all, it's not the most, and we're going to get to that too, not the best league in the world. And then you say, okay, well, what is the thing that we can sell? Well, it's got to be Lionel Messi because he's the greatest player we've ever seen. All right, let's move on because we could spend a whole show on that. In terms of what Messi's impact has been, there's frustration that MLS is not moving forward swiftly enough. What has considerably changed with Messi here, MLS is afraid of changes. I think the awareness about our league has grown a lot. People would probably have started to joke, if they haven't already, and called it Messi League Soccer. Yes, that's out there. People have done that.
Oh, boy.
So you have to be careful it doesn't become a negative. But obviously, this is partly saying, okay, if you are pushing Lionel Messi this much, and you're saying you've gotten a lot more recognition, and Messi's bringing attention, how are you leveraging that? And that is part of the issue.
Well, this, like I was talking about balance a second ago, it's also like the fractured nature of the people that are being reached out to and the people who follow along. So folks that are, MLS soccer fans and just soccer nerds in this country, they're well aware of what's going on in the league and well aware of Messi, but a lot of the coverage is trying to reach out to new ones to add to that pot. But also outside of American borders, I know that Major League Soccer comes up a lot more in English coverage. I mean, it has been more so just because of transfers, but Messi landing in Major League Soccer, it's a not as infrequent topic on the big shows talking about the game overseas, especially in England.
But again, and this is the catch-22 that MLS constantly finds itself in. And you can go back to 2007.
Who are you trying to cater to, right?
When Beckham arrived, you have a catch-22. You need to grab more attention. You have a name that can help you grab more attention. The only people that the big-time sports talk radio shows and television shows, the only people they'll talk about are the world-famous stars that they feel, because, again, there's this idea of, like, if it's not the best in the world, we don't care about it. Mm-hmm. That's how Americans are. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Other interesting topics here. The Athletic reported last October that MLS is considering a change to sync its calendar up with European leagues. The CSOs were nearly unanimous that this would be a positive for MLS. Wow. There was one GM who said he was not convinced it'll be good, but was hopeful it would be. And you can read the quote there. And what I would point out, okay, is that this is not really about weather. These CSOs care about the construction of their teams, and the construction of their teams would be aided by matching the European calendar, because as this quote says, when you are trying to build a team, when you're trying to transfer players in, and I think there's a further quote where it says something like, it's impossible to convince someone to sell you a player when they're in a fight for Europe. Like, how do you get teams in Europe to sell you their players in the middle of their season in January when MLS is getting ready to start? When those teams are like, well, we might make the Conference League, we can't sell you our player. And if that's where MLS is going to be in relative terms to the world market for players, and we're not talking about necessarily always Premier League or top 5 leagues. We're talking about, the Belgian league and the Dutch league and things like that. When those players are within range for MLS purchases, but they can't pry them away because those clubs aren't willing to sell at that point in the year, that's why these CSOs love this idea.
Yeah. Of the big, boulders of, infrastructure issues with American soccer, the calendar is really the one I kind of just like stepped away from and kind of just let that float away into the ether of my mind. It's interesting that this is picking up so much steam now. And from a business perspective, there's going to be a clash here. Do the business and the structure of the roster building take priority, or does the reality on the ground matter? We saw the CCC games a week or two ago, people with frozen mustaches and beards and stuff like that, not super practical or even safe in some locations. But at the same time, to align with the calendar, you would be able to, be on the same level of, inbound and outbound transfers, and it would kind of make more sense and align with so many things.
Here are a couple more quotes on this. This has been brought up a lot. For me, the biggest thing is our premier event, MLS Cup, at a time when we're not fighting football. So right now, the way the season plays out, MLS is basically going up against both college and pro football when they hold their biggest game. And that's tough to stand out, right? There's just not a lot of oxygen in the room when you've got the NFL and college football doing their thing. Now, if you flip the calendar over and now you're doing MLS Cup in, say, May, that might be better, right? Your only real competition. I mean, you could argue about the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs. Those are much lower level in terms of attention than football.
Yeah.
So you'd have something to compete with, but not the same level. But the issue, of course, is that most of your season then is competing with football, or the first half of your season is competing with football. And is it better for MLS the way it is now, going through a summer where really you're only competing with baseball for attention? But again, I don't even know if that's the right way to look at it because of where soccer is. Soccer is sort of this off to the side sporting interest for a lot of people. It doesn't even really fit into the general portfolio of sports in America in terms of who is attracted to it. There are some general sports fans who like soccer and football and basketball and whatever. Yeah. But I think soccer fans have segregated themselves largely. We're like a different breed, and it's so interesting. There is mention here of the weather, right? Challenges playing in the winter months, cold weather environments. Seems like the league has plans and ways to mitigate that. That may be some inside information that he kind of whoever this is passing along. If you ask our commercial department, there's less enthusiasm. That's the business part of it. This here, as we move on, is about whether or not USL First Division, which is in planning stages, will be a competitor to Major League Soccer. Basically, everybody laughed it off. My stance on USL is I don't think they're ever going to be a threat. I hope they have the best league possible. It's great they are being ambitious. If MLS wants to be ambitious, why wouldn't USL? Every country with great domestic soccer leagues has strong second and third divisions. We need to create more avenues. This is again, rising tide lifts all boats, which I appreciate. And we should be doing that. As I said, part of the issue that we have here in this country is that these are all independent businesses operating either against each other or not aligned. And certainly there's no pyramid together and all that stuff. And you can tell just how much of an appetite there is for this stuff based on the videos that we've done on these topics. The USL First Division, the idea of Pro Rel, all those things, because people are watching those videos and our comments are going out of control on those videos. I just don't know if we see the path necessarily to getting there. But if MLS is confident in what they're doing, it shouldn't matter to them where the USL is. It'll kind of be like the Premier League and the Championship, where the money in the Premier League just got to a point where you still have Englishmen penetrating into the Premier League squads, and especially in the bottom half, but a lot of players are making their names down in the Championship and then going abroad. I think that's basically what's going to happen with USL. That's interesting. Now, MLS would have to open up its international slots to do that.
I want to know what the English viewers think about that commentary. Do they think that that's true? I mean, there's Englishmen in the top half of the league to a degree.
This one is on the issue of MLS ratings. and television and watching it. The reason why people don't watch MLS now is as simple as you can watch anything all over the world. You can watch American football, soccer, the amount of hours to dedicate to a weekend of watching something. You can choose one of hundreds of things to watch. If you want to watch basketball, no offense to MLS, but are you going to turn on the Serbian League? You're not. You're going to watch the best product.
All right, so Serbian League taking some strays here. Of all the non top 5 leagues, they picked the Serbian one, but I would say that's the case. I mean, what has always been the case with viewing for Major League Soccer? It seems like it's always kind of been in the 6-figure range. They very rarely does a Major League Soccer game, if ever, break the 1 million mark. It's usually somewhere in the 250,000 viewers,
Right.
sort of
Well,
air. And then for a big game on Fox, you might get 600,000, and that's been the case, since I recall following sort of ratings, since like 2012-ish or so.
Yeah.
So it leads me to believe that those are the hardcores, and there just isn't enough quality in the product for it to be a neutral viewing experience. So
Right,
MLS
right.
viewers are going to watch their home team, and then there might be a select handful of MLS viewers that'll watch the game not involving their home team, but just that quality is not there for it to be a mainstream neutral
Yeah, I agree with that.
spectator
I agree with
sport
that.
or
I
attraction.
also think, again, back to my point about soccer fans sort of segregating ourselves. Lots of people, if you are interested in watching the best league in the world, it's available here, or the best leagues in the world. And we have now created habits and patterns as soccer fans. That means that what the soccer we watch happens early in the day,
Yeah.
on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you get to 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, whatever it is, when MLS is happening, people are like, no, I got others. I've already watched my soccer. My quota is filled. I'm done with soccer for the day. Now, maybe some people still work in their other sports or whatever. Obviously, football season complicates this for people who. But then again, you can still be a soccer fan and a football fan because you watch soccer in the morning and you watch football in the evening, or whatever it is. Or you watch a Premier League game on a Saturday morning, go straight into a college football game. I mean, this is always going to be a problem for MLS. Because of that, because it wasn't established enough before all this stuff was available to create the habits for sports fans that, hey, this is when I watch soccer in the evening. People don't watch soccer in the evening, at least not big numbers. And then this is obviously tied into it. The Apple television deal, Robert.
Yeah.
One common theme from GMs, the Apple TV deal is proving to be too much of a barrier for new fans. Change the format, change the salary cap, allow us to bring more attractive players, but they also have to in the deal with Apple. It's bad for the fans. I saw this picked up by
That's
Alpha
very
announcing.
strong words. Even with anonymity, I'm surprised they speak so strongly about this.
Yeah, well, I mean that they know that they're anonymous. There were some questions they begged off on, but this one was not one of them. This got picked up by Awful announcing. MLS exec says MLS must end Apple TV deal.
Yeah.
Here's another comment. I think we have to be on more linear outlets. We have to be on ABC, NBC, Fox more regularly. I think a lot more people watched our games when we were in that space. Again, not millions of people, though, as you pointed out, Rob.
No.
Right? So MLS was banging its head against a brick wall, trying to break through, and unable to do so for 25 years or whatever, more than that. And they eventually said, okay, you know what? We need a different path. And do we know it's going to work? No, probably. We don't know. We hope that it's going to work, and we're taking a risk on going to a platform like Apple. And again, going sort of everybody buys the same platform. Doesn't matter where you are. We're not selling individual rights deals across the globe, which you could do. We are going to stick. We're going to stick with one platform. The paywall. It's a balance between being on a platform as forward-thinking as Apple, and we can definitely argue about the investment Apple's put into the product, versus the paywall, and whether you're preventing yourself from growing by putting your own walled garden up. And if you're not already inside, how do you even know it exists? How do you know it's there, Robert?
I think this seems to be a theme of the day, but balance, I think it might be the key here. While I do think that it is notable and kind of a forward-thinking thing that, like you said, move on from just banging your head against the wall with the same thing that you've been doing for the last 10, 15 years regarding TV, trying to improve. Apple TV, while it makes it kind of like squared away, I think it's pretty cool that one platform is willing to put so much into domestic soccer and thinking that there is a future to it. But I think there is a balance. There is merit to being on just the regular channel. It's like how many bars across America regularly have within their package Apple TV to put on at the bar,
Right,
and how long are people flipping to it?
But
because
then
those
again,
shared experiences. So you walk into a bar, it's on Fox, Major League Soccer game is on there. You don't know anything about it, but there's a group experience of people watching it. That's more likely
all of
to
this,
to help
Rob,
than it not being there at all.
but all this is predicated on the idea that Americans are going to form new sports habits. And again, we have fractured our interests so much, right? And our interests were already fractured, but now we're able to serve those interests, right? People who might have watched sports 25 years ago are now listening to true crime podcasts instead. Or that's a over the top example, but you get my point. Like, there's the collective experience is not the same as it was. So if that's the case, and there's so much content, so many things people can engage with, so many streaming platforms, so many sports, is it even possible to be a big-time sports league, to grow into that space in 2025 without being separated by like a time zone thing like the Premier League or European football? Right? If you don't have that going for you, which means you're not nobody else is watching sports at 7:30 in the morning except Premier League fans on a Saturday, right?
Yeah, they did really well to bake in a new tradition and a new habit. You're right there.
Right. Well, yeah, and again, it's okay. It's the best league in the world, so it has that going for it as well, or at least it can present itself as that. Major League Soccer doesn't have that. It's swimming upstream on creating new habits for sports viewers in America. Right. And again, that leads into a question as people are talking about in the chat. Thank you guys for your comments. They're very, very good. But, you need a new promotional scheme, a new advertising scheme. You are dumping money down a hole and hoping someday it fills up enough for you to get that money back out. You don't know at this point. And I don't have the numbers and the metrics and the marketing, but I think that's part of it. Interesting survey. Very interesting survey.
And I don't know if we have time for it, but the GM's talking about the direction of the league. I know that we wanted to move on, but I think that is important, that there is some disenchantment with the direction. I know that the mission and the statement or a direction from ownership, doesn't seem to be a clear one. They don't have a confidence that let's call it less ambitious owners are going to change. I think that it's kind of pointless, which I think is more strong language, and the fact that like maybe some of the viewpoints from fans are also echoed in the boardroom.
Yeah. Look, again, I think the argument here, and it's easy because it's not our money, but the argument here for a lot of fans is you are not going to reach the level you want to get to unless you are doing big things, unless you are taking massive swings. You cannot slow play this anymore, right? You cannot chip away. This is a drop of water falling on a stone. It's going to take forever to erode that stone. You need to take a sledgehammer to this thing. And so far, there have been too many MLS owners who have been unwilling to take a sledgehammer and try to break through.
Maybe bold moves are needed to take MLS where XX want and fans want to take it. If you haven't subscribed already, Morning Kickaround on YouTube.com. Be the next to join the MK Ultras. Write us a note. morningkickaround@gmail.com is the way to write us a letter. And follow along on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. And if you get some dollars you'd like to support the show with, ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. We're going to take a quick break and come right back with the big question. What's the world's weirdest soccer stadium? Here on Morning Kickaround. Big question here on Morning Kicker. And what is the big question of the day? Well, Manchester United unfurled some renderings and a big plan for a new Old Trafford replacement, leading us to ask, what's the weirdest soccer stadium in the world? Manchester United with this taking a shot at what might be a competitor for weird and outlandish stadia.
Yeah, I mean, it looks amazing. It does look like circus tents, which led to a lot of jokes, easy jokes on social media.
I mean, that keeps the leaks out, right?
I guess you could say they pitched this idea. Oh, it's a tent joke. That's terrible. Look, it's striking to say the least. We actually have a little bit of a a video. Let me see where we are in this. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to get to. Let's go.
The
this.
network
There we go.
of Manchester Ship Canal. Bringing it
So
back
again,
to a
I'm
new
trying to
life.
skip to the good
Shipping
part
in
here. Oh,
components,
look, we're getting to see the thing being
160 of
constructed.
them.
It's a
Only
strong
none,
crane to
actually.
lift the whole stadium.
And then
like
we
that.
rebuild.
Yeah,
the
I don't know
Old
about this
Trafford
British dude. I guess he
station.
works
And
for the
that becomes
design
the
firm.
pivot,
I'm going to turn him down.
processional way
Um,
to the
I love a good
stadium,
rendering.
welcoming
This one is
and
extremely
at
over the
the
top.
heart
How
of
big
the
is the
new
stadium supposed to be,
sports
Robert?
neighborhood.
Oh, goodness gracious. It's a big one. It's going to at least match that of the
It learns from
of
It's
Old
100,000.
Trafford, which
I believe it's 100,000 is what it's supposed to be, Robert. 100,000 seats, which I believe would make it one of the biggest football arenas in the world. There aren't too many 100,000 seat stadiums out there.
Wembley,
in
the
world football.
currently the biggest in England with 90K. And then this project, you want to take a guess at the estimated cost of new Old Trafford?
Oh, it's got to be like $3 billion. What are we talking about here?
Okay, I got to get my pinky out. $7.3 billion.
Wow, $7.3 billion as I try
The
to get our...
specifics of how it would be funded are not known. And true sign of the times, Sir Jim Radcliffe, from a certain echelon in the social caste system, talking about how he never would have thought that $40,000 could be donated or saved somehow for the former players of United, but then at the same time unfurl a rendering for a $7 billion stadium. So sign of the times there coming out of Manchester United.
I think this says so much about what's wrong with top level football ownership right now. It speaks to a complete lack of awareness of what is important, what matters, why these clubs existed in the first place. Again, Newton Heath and the history of Manchester United and all those things. $7.3 billion plan to build a 100,000 seat stadium.
But the team was going to be out of cash by Christmas, though.
Right. I mean, when you've laid off, how many hundreds of employees have been laid off by Manchester United recently? I saw somebody, basically say, and I'm paraphrasing here, we don't have money to pay the lunch lady, but we do have money to plan for a 100,000 seat stadium that looks like it just flew in from outer space and is bringing aliens who are set to take over our planet. I mean, it's the lack of, again, the inability to read the room is insane.
Taking it to another level, really.
I get it that clubs need to do stuff like this to keep up, and that's the problem. Like, we're in this race now. This is a hamster wheel situation, and everybody's got to figure out a way to build these new stadiums. Now, we're here talking about Manchester United, but I do want to talk about weird stadium ideas, and we thought we would throw a couple of them out. I'm going to go back. This is an idea that did not happen.
Love
but
this.
you and I were both thought about this immediately. That building is now destroyed, right? They've torn down the old Silver Dome.
Yeah,
completely.
it's a rubble pile in Pontiac, Michigan now.
Okay, so if you remember, some people. By the way, opening game of the 1994 World Cup happened at the Pontiac Silver Dome.
Right there.
Eric Winalda, who I do a radio show with sometimes,
He
I think
mentions
every
this
day,
a couple times, doesn't he?
scored a free kick goal for the United States men's national team in that World Cup game where they put grass down in the dome. This is a couple of years. This is like maybe 8-10 years ago.
2012, I believe it was.
Wow, a long time ago. I think Pablo Mauro was on this story at one point. They were going to redo the Silver Dome so that it would have multiple arenas, a soccer stadium somehow on top with music venues below, I think it was the idea. I would have loved for this to happen. It did not happen. But in the spirit of sort of odd renderings and things, well, okay, how about we go to the real world? Something that actually has happened, which is this is a stadium in Turkey, right, that is designed to look like a crocodile. As far as striking stadium designs go,
I love it.
rough.
I absolutely love this.
Yeah, you're a big fan of this one?
Yeah, I mean, to embrace a nickname, I mean, I know we kind of like associate nicknames and going over the top with mascots as an American thing, but this is Turkey. They are nicknamed the Crocodiles, and they have really embraced it. This stadium literally means crocodile arena in Turkish, and those are glass panels and membranes. I'm not sure what membrane means in a construction term, but yeah, those are glass panels, and pretty amazing that they would build a crocodile stadium.
Yeah, this is the home of Bursaspor in Turkey. This is the Centennial Ataturk Stadium, I believe, is the official name of the stadium. I'm not sure. I think there may be a sponsor involved somehow, but when they play in UEFA, it's the Bursa Metropolitan Municipality Stadium. But yeah, incredible design, looks like a crocodile. That one actually does exist, right? That's a real building. We wanted
That
to
looks
bring in
like an
some of the-
AI. What would a crocodile stadium look like? But it's real.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
I wanted to bring in some of the Saudi Arabia planned stadiums for the World Cup happening in 2034. I don't want to get into how that bid was awarded and all the craziness of that. And we did highlight this one on the show a while back. This is the Chalupa. I call it the Chalupa Stadium. It looks like a Taco Bell menu item to me. It's supposed to be like,
The green
obviously
menu.
tied into the earth and it's growing from the ground. These are all just concepts now, but of course it's Saudi Arabia. They have the cash to probably build this stuff. And there's a lot of them. I didn't even grab all of them. First of all, Rob, give us your thoughts about this stadium briefly.
This one, we talked about it earlier. Like you said, this seems like the vegetarian option on the Taco Bell. This is the Taco Bell vegetarian cheesy, or the Crunchwrap Supreme, maybe with like some lettuce leaves rather than a tortilla, perhaps. It'd be cool
Okay.
if they could grow grass on the roof of a stadium. I'm all for earthiness, maybe keep the temperature down a little bit, but
Yeah,
a
that's
wild concept. I'm glad people are having such outside of the box ideas.
Yeah, if you live in a urban
Desert.
environment, you live in a city, sometimes you will see that that they have put like grass and stuff on top of buildings in order to cool the buildings, I guess, and give people a place to hang out. Maybe this is
Yeah, because I mean, when you're in the urban jungle, a concrete jungle, I mean that heat is no joke coming off the concrete. So soil and natural elements helps that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of a audible here. This is from Jack's Film Room. Mbatho Stadium is one of the weirdest ones. We do have actually an image of that one. This is what he's talking about. A little blurry here, but it's got all these weird. The stands are all kind of. First of all, how do you even get to these? Like,
They're considered. This one's an example of a brutalist design
Okay,
in a stadium, which is a rare form of what do you call it? Architecture approach to a stadium.
Oh, I live in D.C. I know all about brutalism. If you're in the top corner in that middle section, like how that's just got to be a weird angle to watch a football match.
They call them
That
floating
was right.
stands. I wasn't sure if that was maybe meant for a different sport with those kind of angles.
Could be. This is in South Africa, so there are other sports that matter. Obviously, you can see the running track, which always these days. Oh, there's a running track. That's so gross. In Barcelona, for example, playing at the Olympic Stadium in Barcelona has a running track, and it feels weird. But of course, there were lots of games historically and in World Cups and various places that had running tracks around the field, and back then they didn't care too much. All right, back to Saudi Arabia, because again, this is such a font of weird stadium designs.
That one is unreal.
This looks like something from Tron. This does not look like it could actually happen in real life. I believe that is built into some sort of walled section of the Nome city and it's NOEM, I believe, that Saudi Arabia is planning. If you don't know about this city, and maybe I'm sure there's an excellent YouTube video on this planned city that maybe we can watch together at some point.
The line.
If you don't know about this city, it is they're planning a stadium, or rather a city that is a line. It's on the far western side of Saudi Arabia, up there by the Red Sea. And I don't know. Again, can they actually do this? I know they have a lot of money, but do they have this kind of money? Is this what they've got? Now, again, speaking of sort of like, it looks like computer graphics and not real. Look at this thing. What is that? That's supposed to look. You can see inside there. There's supposed to be this is another one of the
It's a
Saudi
cliff
Arabia
city,
planned stadiums.
a cliff city with a stadium with an open end over the cliff. I love imagination.
It's insane. Again, it's beautiful imagination. Will it actually happen? Will there be a stadium built that looks like that, Robert? Do you really believe it's going to happen?
That looks like a kid who spent his whole summer in Minecraft and just came up with the sickest look to build a cliff city with a stadium as the centerpiece. Super cool. Going back to the line, that reminds me, there was wasn't there like a Matt Damon sci-fi movie where there was like a ring around the outside of the earth where only like the rich people could go up and
Don't know that one.
get
find it.
health care and live in a nice place, but very, very futuristic, very I love the fact that gawking at renderings is no longer just an American soccer pursuit.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that's true. I am a rendering junkie, but I like renderings that feel like they have a real possibility of happening.
Yeah,
right?
we're our eyebrows are raised about a stadium in the United States having a roof on it, and they're talking about building Minecraft cliff stadiums. I mean, come on.
Yeah, in fact, speaking of renderings, when we were doing our research for this episode, you were like, "What about Al Lang Stadium in Tampa?" And
That's not Al Lang.
No, this one is. Yeah, this is not the way it looks. This is the way they imagined it if MLS was going to come to town because they didn't have another stadium plan. And this is obviously, Al Lang is a baseball stadium that has been repurposed for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. And this is very pretty. I don't know how great it would be with the two open corners and that one side that's right there on the highway, but you know, it's not a bad looking rendering. And I do very much enjoy these renderings. Maybe we need to do a review I know that there's projects happening in a couple of places. I actually just heard, Robert, I'll throw this in as a bonus as we finish the show up, that Ronaldinho is going to attend the groundbreaking of the new stadium project in Greenville, South Carolina. Why? I don't know. But he's going to be there to celebrate the groundbreaking for their 10,000-seater in Greenville, South Carolina.
Mr. Davis, have you been playing soccer categories before the show again? Because that sentence you just said doesn't make any sense in a reality-based thing. Anything? I'm not like big for spokesmen that are kind of like ancillary coming in, but connecting Ronaldinho to anything stateside.
Oh, it happens. It's happened before. This is not new. I mean,
yeah. Was it an NASL connection or something with Ronaldinho and domestic American soccer?
Okay, I'm gonna say something that you're going to be shocked by. Okay?
Are my eyebrows gonna go whoop?
I think you're going to be shocked by this.
Okay.
If you give Ronaldinho a little bit of money, he will show up wherever you want him to. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm not shocked. Okay, you didn't break any ground there. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, this is a man who spent some time in a Paraguayan prison. So that's one. He's like one of the greatest.
And he was still smiling, I bet.
Most entertaining players of all time, Ronaldinho. But yeah, this is an odd one that he's going to be in green. Why? Just because it's a famous name and he's available, and he doesn't cost all that much. He's part of the ownership group. I'm actually seeing that he's part of the ownership group there in Greenville. This is from last year, October 9th. He was announced as part of, and you know, there are some of these celebrity, and he's a former soccer player, so it's maybe a little bit stronger idea than some of these other celebrities are buying into soccer teams in America. But some of this is like, are they actually putting money in? Or
is he putting more than his name in?
I think maybe it's just can we attach your name to our club and say you're an owner? You don't even have to give us any money. It's just going to help us out. Sell it to the local community and get some sponsors on board and partners. I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, I mean, a sign of the times, that would be pretty wild. Should we, do an MK on the scene and, see if Ronaldinho shows up? We take a road trip to Carolina and try to see if he actually shows?
My mom lives down near Greenville, South Carolina, not too far. Actually, I've been to Greenville. It's a very nice little town. I have not been to any of their soccer offerings, but I would love to go. And as soon as they get some proper renderings of their stadium, maybe we will do a review of some of these soccer projects. If you guys are interested in a stadium rendering review here on Morning Kickaround.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I was going to say we kind of went off on a tangent with our Ronaldinho side topic, but yeah. Of the expansion talk that's going on and the new building talk, who has the most outside of the box idea? Who has the most innovative or unique plans for the new stadia, the new generation that might be coming of new soccer specific stadiums? I think that about does it for Wednesday's Morning Kick Around. Thank you for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do so. Morning Kick Around on youtube.com. Join the MK Ultras, a group that is expanding at a rapid clip. Be the next one to do so. You can also follow along on social media at MKickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or throw some cash, ko-fi.com/TOPIC morning Kickaround. Like you said earlier in the show, we are live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. You can catch the full episode or segmented clips on the YouTube channel. So if you like a segment of the show, you can also watch along live, get in on the chat, and become part of the contributing faction of the MK Ultras.
There you go.
Any other final notes?
No, enjoyed it. Good show. Thank you to everybody who watched and commented. We appreciate you all.
All right, plenty of soccer to go. We are next on Friday morning. Plenty of soccer between now and then. So until Friday morning, everybody, please enjoy your soccer.